Definitely the worst week either of us have had since we moved to LA. And we're going to talk about all the awful California stuff later. We'll start with football and then we'll circle back around because there's a lot to cover on that. But we wanted to hit the football first, as weird as that sounds, Sal. We had 4 really lousy games and then a really good one. Tampa, Washington. Washington wins their first playoff game in 20 years, and it ends up being a doink that puts it over the top. That did not make up for the other 4 games from an entertainment standpoint, but really entertaining. I'm wondering, is Washington this season, they're not the best team, but they're the kind of the Daniel Bryan, Bret Hitman Hart. Like, you always have a good match when you're in a match with Washington. They're one of those teams. They're not going to win the title, but they've been the most fun team this season, right? They've been in the most fun games.
Not so fast, Bill, with them not winning the title. Jaden Daniels' face is bleeding. I just want to lick that blood right off of him. No, that's good for Joe House. Like you said, somber week, shitty week, but I feel good for Joe House. One of our freaking teams is going and advancing, but he was awesome, Jaden Daniels. He was really, they were coming after him. For that guy to not turn the ball over once with the heat he was facing and just big play after big play, good for him and good for us for finally getting a good game 36 hours later.
House did not have the cojones to actually take Washington in the Ringer Sunday pregame show. He did, what did he do? Some bogus Tampa over. It was his way of covering his bases.
Tampa over 27.5 points. And he said Washington would win 28-27. Yeah, he was really threading the needle there.
I think the Washington fans were believing that they actually had a real chance to win this one. And the line reflected it. It was Tampa by 3. But this came down to a couple plays for me. So Washington, they're down 4, and Tampa gets the goal line stand, right? And it goes to 4th and 5. There's less than 10 minutes left. And I always think the team should kick the field goal, take the points, make it a 1-point game. Tampa doesn't do it. 4th and 5 is a lot when you're inside the 10. I just didn't trust that they were going to get it. I thought it was a mistake. Tampa gets the big stop. They have the momentum going the other way. Fumble. Now we're going back again. Now it's 4th and 2. And it was like on the 11, 4th and 2, a little more manageable. I was okay with them going the second time. Plus, there was less time in the game, and Daniels delivers, comes through, right? So now Washington's up 3. Tampa goes all the way back down. They have this great drive. Baker has a scramble. It's 2nd and 1 on the 11, and there's like less than 5 minutes left. They run this like QB option run with Baker, gets stuffed. Then the next play, like fumbled snap, Bucky Irving, he's tackled 4 yards behind the line. All of a sudden, they're kicking a field goal. And it was like, it just like tush push it. You have first down goal to go, and you have a chance to control your destiny. Then Washington comes back down. 2 huge plays, that little weird screen pass flick play that
almost
made.
Could have been intercepted.
It was a really nice play. They get it. They go down into field goal territory. Then that awesome 3rd and 1 by Daniels, which is, that was the play of the game. That's why he's special. But Sal, like over and over again in the last like 5, 6, 7 minutes of these games, he's just pulling them out. I'd be scared of them if I was Philadelphia.
I'd be scared of anyone if I was Philadelphia, if the plan is to play like they did today. But they're not playing Philadelphia, right? They're playing Detroit.
No, and I got all excited. I actually looked this up. Because I thought it was Washington, Philadelphia before I realized I was confused by the standings. Do you know how many times Washington and Philadelphia have played in the playoffs?
Has it not happened a lot? I'll say 4.
1.
Really?
1. It was the Mark Rippon year. Washington beat them 20-6.
The one they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That was the only time they've ever played in the playoffs, which is weird because they play twice a year. I would have guessed it was like, and they've been in the league this whole time. I would have guessed it would have been like 8, 7, 10. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
well, they're not going to play again, so that's good. But that's they're solid Washington. As far as the coaches go with the 4th and 2, I was with you. I just take the points in a lot of these situations. I know they proved me wrong, but the plays that were running for Jaden Daniels weren't great. They were making him a pocket passer there on like 4th and 2 and 4th and 4. So I was all for taking the points in most of those situations. It's a different story when it's the Eagles and it's Hurts and Barkley. And if I have Lamar, if I have Henry, if I have Josh Allen. But other than that, 4th and 2 is still 4th and 2. You could kick a field goal. And I was okay with them leaving that field goal on the board too.
What did you think of Tampa potentially going for it down 3 with like 4 minutes left?
when it was like 4th
that would have
and
been
4?
like a 4th and 3 after they got stuffed twice. Yeah, it was like 4th and 3.
I don't like it after. That was the play where like there was the disarray at the line of scrimmage, right?
Yes.
Like I never liked the next play after that. I don't know what it would have been. I know there was like easy stuff happening with Evans, but I kind of get it. There's so much to go after Bowles for. That's not one of them.
Well, especially the end of the first half when he was mismanaging everything and somehow they scored anyway. I thought they should kick the field goal. And yet when they kicked the field goal, I thought Washington was going to come down and get the game-winning field goal. It was weird. Yeah. I didn't think they should go for it, but I also thought they were going to lose because they didn't get those 2 plays. I
just like saying Vita Vea, Bill. I'll say Vita Vea over and over and over.
I tried to order Vita Vea at Peter Luger's. They didn't have it. I mean, big picture, and we know a lot of Washington fans. This was the official "fuck you, Dan Snyder" game.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was one thing. It's a cute story. They had a Hail Mary. They got into the playoffs. Dan Quinn. It's a family atmosphere. They have a front office that actually knows what they're doing. Adam Peters, like they've turned the organization around. That makes them look bad enough. But now you have this awesome playoff win. Now they're playing Detroit, a team that doesn't have the most awesome defense, at least until week 18 when they look pretty good against Minnesota. But Darnold also left a lot of throws. And if I'm Washington, I feel like I can go in there and at least match points with Detroit. Who the fuck knows? Right?
Hell yeah. Yes, you got a rookie quarterback that didn't turn the ball over at all. In many instances where he could have. I mean, that's got to be I don't know. They might be banged up and the Lions are more rested and everything like that. But I think this for now that we're talking like a week before, I think this is closer. They do get screwed with the Saturday thing though, right? They have 6 days. Yeah.
Well, you knew somebody was going to get screwed with the Sunday to Saturday. I guess it would be worse if it was the Monday game. But yeah, first playoff win in 20 years. And the Patriots hired Mike Vrabel this weekend, which felt like it was headed that way for 5 days. But I was getting intel that it was getting a little hairy on Friday night, and Chicago was making a run at him, and and you think like, oh man, if we don't get him and we don't get Ben, all of a sudden we're looking at the Pete Carroll range of guys. But they get Vrabel, they have Drake May, they have all this cap space, they have the 4th pick, and they had probably one of the worst rosters in the league, if not the worst. They're in a division with Buffalo. There's all these reasons not to believe. But I watch a team like Washington, I'm like, they turned it around in a year. That team was a fucking, shit can. And they drafted the right quarterback. They changed the coach. They brought in a really good coaching staff. And all of a sudden they have 13 wins, Sal. It's not like they're like a 9-8 team that snuck in. Like this team's won 13 times.
And another strike against them was the ownership, and there was defecation in the stadium. I mean, we can go on and on and on. It doesn't really make sense. Dan Quinn's done a nice job with this team, and like you said, this is just they call lightning in a bottle with this Jaden Daniels. It's terrific. But congratulations on Vrabel. I think that's fun for you, right? Good news to end the week.
Yeah, it feels like you need the coach, you need the QB, and I can kind of figure out everything else. Right. But if I don't have those 2 things, where am I going? Right. And you need at least like a solid coach, maybe better than that. And you need a top 10 QB potentially. And now they have the 2 things. And now they can try to build their roster. But I thought the way Washington did it was the blueprint. They had a lot of really smart second level free agent signings, like the kind of going after like the B-list guys, like the best of the B-list. And they spent a lot of money on their coaching staff. So it seems replicable. The Pats have a really super easy schedule. Anyway, I was inspired by Washington. The difference is Daniels, he's in his mid-20s. He was in college for 9 years. There's a reason he looks like a veteran. He's almost as old as Joe Burrow.
I was thinking that with Bo Nix, too. I was like, maybe I was wrong about all this. And the rookies, if they have like 60 college games under their belt and they've all played in like high-profile bowls and, they don't really get shook. But we'll talk about that game. That's a whole different story. But listen, I think part of you is saying Vrabel did this with Tannehill. He could do it with Drake May. Isn't that the bottom line?
He's never had an elite quarterback ever. Yeah. And hopefully Drake May can get there. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping. No, I've talked about Vrabel a bunch of times on the pod. I just felt like he was hands down the best coaching candidate available. We'll see with Ben Johnson, but there's a big difference between calling plays and actually having to run a whole team and build a whole culture. I think I thought Tampa Washington was the hardest game to pick. Who'd you have in that game?
I picked it right. I had Washington. I actually went 4-1. My playoffs have been terrible over the last few years. Did you get 3-2 or 4-1? What'd you do?
I had all those. I never did $1 million picks this week, but I had all those anchor teasers with Buffalo and Baltimore, 8.5 point teases. So Green Bay covered by half point. The Tampa covered today. I had a lot of trouble with what the Chargers lost yesterday. I had a lot of trouble with Washington, Tampa, because I like the same thing about both teams. I like their offenses. I like the way their quarterbacks were playing. And I thought that both of them were really these close-knit teams. You know, I was reading the stories about Tampa heading into out of the week 18, and like that Mike Evans play that we were joking about last week about, oh my God, that was kind of risky to go for 1,000 yards. You have the game, you're like the playoffs are on the line.
Sure.
And you read the stories about it, and guys were saying it was like the highlight of their careers. Like they all loved Mike Evans, and they were like, this record meant a lot to him. He got hurt. He didn't think he was going to be back in time to try to break it. And there was just all this stuff, and you could just feel the love coming out of that. They love Baker Mayfield. They play hard for him. So I was like, man, this is almost two teams. I wish these two teams were playing two other teams so I could pick both of these teams. It was one of those, because everything you read about Washington's the same thing. Dan Quinn, he's turned the vibes around. The mood is completely different. And they end up winning the Mood Bowl, I guess. I
think we felt the same way about Rams Detroit last year. Remember, I watched your place and why do they have to square up in the first round? This is good. Yeah. So, Baker's great. When he takes off, you have no choice but to root for him. Somehow he's got legs. There's like 200 more rushing yards this year than he has in the previous any of the previous 5 or 6. Like it's spectacular. And Mike Evans just diving backwards for a first down. It is really tough. Irving runs hard. Defense plays hard. Tough to.
It's a good team.
For this thing. Yeah.
I had written down, because there seemed like they were going to possibly win at one point. I was researching them. They had a case for being the best 2020s NFC team, and they still might have the case even now. Because they're one of the only 2 NFC teams that won a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. They've had 4 division titles. They were 6-3 in the playoffs heading into this game today. Over the last 5 seasons, the 2020s, they're 51-33. It was like you would never think, if you said to somebody who is the best team in the NFC this decade, I don't think they would have been a top 4 guess for anybody, but I think they are. It's either them or Philadelphia. They have a better record and more playoff wins. And then the loss today, I think they would have had a chance in round 2 against whoever they played. But the Mayfield thing, when you think about, he goes to Cleveland, he plays for 4 coaches his first 3 seasons. He wins their first playoff game with that franchise, right? Since they came back. He tore his labrum in his left shoulder, second game 2021, has the year from hell. They end up paying him to go away, $11 million in Carolina, and go into the Deshaun thing. And now Baker, he's not a top 5 quarterback, but he's in the top 10 or 11. Definitely. And you just think like this whole thing is one of the biggest disaster decisions, start to finish, in the history of the league.
It's so hard, I think, for us. I don't want people to feel bad for us because we're doing what we love. But we look at football and players, I think, through all different lenses, right? We look at them like historically. We look at fantasy-wise, like Baker's great. Exciting. He's top 3 or 4, 5 exciting. And it's like, okay, but where does that put him in actually, in terms of building a team around him? So I don't know. I don't know if I want to say he's top 4 or 5 or anywhere in there, but I love watching them. And I love everything he brings to that team. And I feel like he's in the prime of his career. Don't compare him to Flacco. Don't compare him to any of these other guys. I hope people don't do that anymore. And I think you're right. Like, they were one of the best teams in the NFC. I think they get a bad rap because it's the South that they keep winning.
And we make fun of the South every year. Yeah.
Right.
It's our fault. Yeah. The thing, if you're talking about just QB assets, and we always talk about a rookie QB, how that's the best asset you can have. But they have his contract compared to the other monster contracts where every other superstar is making 50, 55 million a year, whatever they're on the cap for. And I think he signed for like 30 plus a year, something like that. Yep. So definitely a better asset. Anyway, that was a great game for the weekend, because up until that point, it felt like it was the worst weekend ever. For a variety of reasons, for real life reasons, the actual games. It was just one of those weekends you're like, man, I used to love round 1, and this time I feel stupid watching football.
here's the thing. Once the college games are really good, I'm like, oh, the NFL's going to suck now, isn't it? We can't just have all
right. The college games were excellent.
Yeah, they were very good. And then coming into this weekend, but a lot of people all over. Can we just accept the fact that we're probably not going to get good competitive games in any sport in the playoffs for the first couple of rounds? Can all we really hope for is a good Final Four as sports fans and not like tear each other's eyes out arguing over who has the better system? Like the NBA might actually have the best. There are some good 4 or 5 matchups every year, but then they have some finals that suck too. So I think you just have to hope that the Final Four is good and let the cream rise to the top.
Yeah, weirdly, the NBA might be in the best shape for a round 1 this year because they have so much talent and they have some teams in the 7, 8, 9, 10 range that the play-ins will be fun. Now you're mad at me about the Sacramento.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk about the NBA at all. I was just using it as one of the
No, because I saw your mind go to the Sacramento, Indiana, Minnesota bet we made.
How's this team is going to win for the first time in 20 years? And you're talking about this stupid parlay we have with Sacramento and Indiana.
The Sacramento under, Indiana over, and the Minnesota under. And after we did it, Sacramento fired their coach, and now they're just pulling games out of their ass game after game after game. All right, so our schedule before we get to the rest of the games, we have Houston at Kansas City. That's an ESPN game. On Saturday, it's the first one. We need a name for the round 2 first game on Saturday. Yeah. It's not a Shakey's game, but it's a better restaurant that you can probably get a table for like 20, 25. You wouldn't exactly have your wedding reception there, but it's serviceable and solid. It's kind of exciting, but not totally. I also don't want to insult any possible sponsors we might get, but
Houston's
it's like a actually upgrade.
Houston was in Shakey's, and now they're in this one. So it's like Shakey's open like a pop-up, and like somewhere, and it's like in a cool area, maybe. I don't know. It's still the first Saturday game.
Kyle says the Texas Roadhouse game. Texas Roadhouses are fun.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I was going to say the Bianco pizza game, but I don't want Bianco to be mad at me because Bianco could do like a pizza pop-up. You may take that personally.
Right.
Even though I'm complimenting it because I love Bianco pizza.
Yeah.
Houston at KC ESPN. Then Saturday night, Washington at Detroit. Sunday, NBC, either Minnesota or the Rams playing in Philadelphia. So we get Collinsworth in Philadelphia. Oh, Mike, it's so cold. My nipples are frozen, Mike. I can't even feel my nipples.
Can I feel your nipples, Mike?
I can't feel each other's I have no feeling, Mike.
That's not a night game, huh? So they're doing that 3 Eastern on Sunday, and then Romo Nance get the good one, the great one.
Baltimore at Buffalo. So the storylines, I guess, would be KC going for the 3-peat. It officially starts now.
Mm-hmm.
Jaden Daniels and the exciting, rejuvenated Washington Commanders against the team that's really been America's team this year, the Detroit Lions, where they've just been on every week. We like watching them. We know all the characters at this point. Dan Campbell is like the dad in a Friday sitcom. Then, I don't know, what's more fun, Minnesota, Philadelphia, or Rams, Philadelphia? Probably Minnesota, Philadelphia, right? For the history of some of the games they've had?
I guess it would have to be. I'm a little
Minnesota's
down
never
on
won the Super Bowl.
Do you feel like Philadelphia is going to make every game shitty now, no matter who plays them?
Well, so hold that thought for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then Baltimore-Buffalo is the...
Great.
That's it. Let's decide
MVP.
the MVP. You rarely get this. You get this in basketball sometimes.
Yep.
You rarely get this in the NFL where it's like, we've argued about this all year. I think it's been a fun argument. I don't feel like it ever degenerated in anything bad. I'm still not positive who I think the MVP is. Like I left the weekend, I'm like, both of those guys were awesome. I still don't know who the MVP was.
They're excellent. I'll stand by Josh Allen, but again, you can't really be mad at what's going on if some one or the other wins it. I'll say it seems like Lamar has a little more help with Derrick Henry, but other than that, they did beat Buffalo. They beat them pretty good. Buffalo beat the 1 seed. You can go either way.
All right. The game before, the good game, was Packers-Eagles, which was a classic Philadelphia win where they're up 10-0 and their fans are just complaining. And the game has no flow. You don't really understand what's going on. The game, I actually watched with a couple Eagles fans today, and Like they're cutting to AJ Brown. He's reading a book at one point because he's clearly pissed off. He's not getting the ball. Everyone's like, what's wrong with Hurts? Is he healthy? What's going on with him? And they just kind of limped their way to a convincing win that was never in doubt. And they win by double digits. And then you leave the game and you go, what just happened? Are the Eagles good? I'm not.
Right.
Like, it just was typical.
Yeah, and I hated this is the one I'm going to get, salty about because it's the one I lost, but I had Green Bay plus the points. And I wouldn't say, Washington deserved to win as a road team. Fine. None of the other road teams showed up, right? Like Denver, Green Bay, you can't make a case for any of the Pittsburgh, but get that kickoff right, man. Just get that right. It's all about momentum when you're on the road. If you're going to lose a call, if you're going to lose the opening kickoff, you're really kind of screwed there. And I feel like there were enough replays, including the overhead, to show.
Oh, you're going here. Oh, I like this. Okay.
What? I'm not a ref killer. Every time the Chiefs games are decided by something close, I'm like, it's hard to call it regular speed. But if you're able to replay something and you have all those angles and you have that overhead, he had it for like a 2 Mississippi count. Like, is it easier now to just start digging your way through the earth to come out the other end? Is that easier to come out with the ball than it is to come up from a pile above the ground? I don't know. I don't like that. But anyway, I had to get that off my chest.
They've really made it seem like it's now a reality show where it's like season 41 of The Challenge. Just put 10 guys in a pile. Whoever has the ball, when we pull everybody apart, they get the ball. I texted you a couple times over the weekend. I watch football every weekend. I feel like I understand all the rules. I still don't understand what an intentional grounding is. CJ Stroud, that was one of the biggest plays in that Chargers game. It just seemed like a cut and dry intentional grounding. And they're like, no, I got it over the line of scrimmage and he was out of the pocket. I was like, he was out of the pocket?
Who cares?
He was 2 feet to the left. How was he out of the pocket? It just seemed like an automatic. He definitely did an intentional grounding because he was about to get sacked. So they said it wasn't. And then I always felt like if the guy clearly had the ball in the pile before he disappeared into the pile, usually the guy gets the ball back.
Of course.
But this time they're like, nope, he didn't totally have it yet. It's like he didn't. Seemed like he had it.
It also goes against all their crap about player safety. Like, oh, really? Yeah. We're going to keep this going past the whistle because you obviously blew the whistle. And then this guy got it like torn from his clutches. So I don't know. Anyway, Green Bay didn't score enough to win that game, and every receiver was hurt, and I don't know who they were throwing to. So good for you, Philly, but they didn't play great either.
I don't understand. I've said this over and over again watching them. I don't understand their offense. I don't understand why it's so slow and deliberate and has no pace and has no pep and just seems laborious at all times. I don't get it. I don't understand. We were joking about it in the first quarter. We're watching them like, here we go, 39 seconds to the next Saquon handoff.
Yeah,
this will be 37 seconds. And it's just, they play with no pace. They play with no unpredictability at all. They never try to put any sort of pressure. You'd think like if you have Saquon as a running back with Hurts' ability to run and pass and the receivers they have, you could almost go no huddle and just put a defense, put them on their back pedal. They don't do anything. They're just like, nope, do all your subs, get all your guys in and out, do what you need to do. I don't get it.
And for the most part, as long as they don't get in a 3rd and long situation, they're fine. If they're 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 1, they can line up for the tush push on 3rd and 1 and he can back out and throw it long like we saw or hand it to Barkley. Like it is a huge, huge advantage. What the Ravens do, what the Bills do, and specifically what the Eagles do with the tush push and 3rd and short. I mean, because you're going to convert on 4th. But yeah, everything this team does bugs me. Now, Barkley, enough with the sliding down. You're an unselfish player. Should you be a social worker, maybe? Like, score touchdowns. People are betting on you to score touchdowns. Enough already.
You sound like the over.
It's not like you're up 1 and you don't want to go up 8 because they're going to get the ball. Like, just finish it. It's crazy already. So, I don't know.
I actually rewound it. It seemed like the D-back had an angle and maybe could have chased him down 30 yards downfield. But he definitely slid a little early. There was a couple moments today with covers and over-unders because you had that play. You had Matt Collins about to go. He's setting up the Bills on the 2-yard line.
Terrible.
Next touchdown covers every tease and adjusted over if you had 41, 42, whatever.
Yeah.
And then what was the other one? Was that the Baltimore-Pittsburgh just ending at 42 points? That felt like that could have been higher, right?
Yeah, the Steelers had like 200 yards in the 3rd quarter, and then there was no points.
And then the Chargers-Texans game somehow going over.
Yes.
What were the odds of that?
It was like 7-6. I mean, the first, I don't know when you want to talk about that. One more thing on Hurts, though. His 3 winning playoff games, 131 yards against the Packers, 121 yards passing against the Niners, 154 against the Giants. Like, I don't know if we've ever seen anything like this. I know he's not asked to do that much, and he doesn't, and they win.
Right. Well, and he's not even like when they're celebrating at the end, he seems on the side. He's such a polarizing guy within the Eagles.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of Eagles fans, and none of them have a handle on him at all, but yet they've been winning and they've been successful with him, right? But you watch and it's just, I don't know. There's, when you look at like what we saw from Allen and Mahomes in somewhat similar offensive situations from a weapon standpoint, and they're just so electric. And I guess Hurts just doesn't have that level in him.
Yeah, when he shoots off to the side, he'll take a hard hit for a 2-yard gain, right? Like, I feel like, I'm like, hey, cut it up. What are you doing? I don't know. I'm not going to, whatever. He's gone to the Super Bowl and everything. But just read a book on the sideline every now and then, Jalen. Come on. Be a good
you should read Inner Excellence, but borrow a copy from A.J. Brown. I was thinking Eagles fans, because the team has been successful. Yeah. But they also love complaining about them, and I don't really blame them. But it's like that. It's like the friend who's married to the guy that you always feel like they're going to get divorced, and they're never divorced, but she's always complaining about him. That's kind of the Eagles fans with this team.
Yeah, you think they'd root for the Panthers all these years to a point where you're like, oh, does your team suck? I mean, you keep saying they do. I don't know.
Did you go 13-4? Green Bay was kind of the hipster Super Bowl contender this year.
Yeah.
They were like the alternate pick. I know we had money on them. We both loved Detroit with the 1 seed and some Super Bowl bets, but then Green Bay was kind of here's plan B if the Detroit thing doesn't work out. They ended up going 0-6 against Philly and Minnesota and Detroit.
Wow.
And this was more alarming to me. I'm throwing out the Brazil game in week 1 because that game was stupid. They're playing it on. I don't understand what that field was. In the other games against those 3 teams, they fell behind by 21 to Minnesota, by 17 to Minnesota. They fell behind 21 to Detroit. They were down 10 to Detroit, and they were down 10 today, 10-0. This was them against any good team. They just immediately spotted 10, 12, 17 points, whatever it was. And there's a couple times where they would kind of come back. What changed today was they lost Watson before the game.
Yeah.
And then they lose 2 more weapons. So they couldn't even do the comeback thing that Love was pretty good at. I thought Love had a really bad year for what my expectations were. If my expectations were an A-, I thought he was like a C+.
I agree. I don't know when. I'm trying to think when we loved them. When did we fall in love with that team? When were they peaking? Was it 6 weeks ago? Because you're right.
Yeah, it was
they never
5-6
really
weeks
beat
ago.
the good teams, but they never really put together good. I guess they were just beating up the crap.
No, they beat up Miami on Thanksgiving. There was that Thanksgiving and the week after. We should remember this for next year because there was a moment where Green Bay looked like the most dangerous NFC team.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh looked like they had the 1 seed locked up. Yeah. They had already beaten Baltimore. They had 2-game lead. I think, were 10-3. And it just felt like they were going to be 13-3. They never won again. They were 10-3, and and that was it. They I think they lost their last 5 and just completely fell apart. And we can talk about that later. But yeah, those were the 2 teams that I think really fell off. And then conversely, Washington came back. I think because Daniels got healthy was probably the main reason for it. And then Houston died, and then just randomly, their defense came back at some point during that Chargers game, which we're going to talk about in a second. But I think those were kind of the variance teams. I guess the Chiefs might have been the other one because the Chiefs were looking so creaky there. And we were like, this offense, they're just not going to be able to score 20 points anymore. And then they gradually figured that out. Everything else has kind of went toward what we thought.
Yeah, it's funny. Like after Saturday, I'm like, well, have we learned anything about the Chargers and the Steelers other than it's the same team we've been looking at for 8 years? Right? You can't really trust them. The Steelers knuckleball their way to the playoffs without a good quarterback and then don't show up. I don't know what you want to talk about next, but the Chargers were just brutal too. But
one thing on Green Bay, because I want to move to Bills and Steelers. I thought their D was good, and I thought they did a good job today. I thought Jacobs was good.
Earl Campbell run, his whole jersey coming apart. It's fun.
I like Watson as a player, but I don't think it should be a dramatic difference. I like their tight ends, Kraft and Musgrave. I don't know if Musgrave was hurt or if he played or what happened, but and then
Kraft
they lost
dynamite doing the tush push, their version of tush push. Hey, I don't want to make excuses for them because they got beat, probably shouldn't have won, but that kickoff is a huge moment. You can't turn it over on the road, and you can't miss field goals.
It's a bad
field goals. Denver missed a field goal. They weren't going to win that game.
If you pause button a playoff game and the road team is getting the opening kickoff and fumbles on the kickoff, it's almost like the live bet. You almost want to bet everything on the other team, no matter. It just feels like the worst omen possible for the rest of the game. But the bottom line is Jordan Love wasn't good. And there's probably some reasons for it that have to do with some of the weapons being gone. But he made some really bad throws. Yeah. And I never felt like last year, especially in the playoffs, it felt like he was elevating. I didn't feel that way at all in down the stretch here.
I guess the bottom line, the message is don't fall in love with these quarterbacks too much. Jordan Love, CJ Stroud, even though he won, not as good a year. Drake May, I could go on and on.
Come on.
Just don't fall in love with these guys.
All right, so I'm lumping Bills-Broncos and Steelers-Ravens together because this whole season...
Because everyone else did on a teaser.
Well, right, because we did it on teaser. It was we call it the anchor tease or the anchor parlay, whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
My favorite was either these 8 or 8.5 point teases you could do with them on FanDuel and basically put anyone else you want, move the line 8 points, 8.5 points. It's right around even odds. And it just seemed like a free way to gain 8 points with everybody. It won with Tampa. It didn't win with the Chargers. It won with Houston. It won with Washington.
I thought we were going to lose FanDuel as a sponsor. I was like, is a favorite ever going to lose again?
Right.
And then when Tampa was winning tonight, I don't even know. But yeah, they gave it to us.
Look, there's a lot of storylines for the year. Washington and Jaden Daniels, the Lions, the Vikings coming out of nowhere, the Chiefs going for a three-peat. Like, there's a lot going on. But this Josh versus Lamar thing ended up being the most fun thing to argue about. I never, as I said earlier, I never thought it got ugly because both guys have been great. And what's cool is both guys peaking at the right time. So today, Buffalo rushes 44 for 210 and experimented with putting like the 6th offensive lineman out there as a tight end and just bully balled their way through the first half. And then Baltimore yesterday, 50 carries for 299.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo had the ball 41 minutes. Baltimore at 39-33. So two teams that love having the ball, running it down your throats, playing each other with two magical quarterbacks who also in the playoffs run the ball more. This is like one of the best games of the decade. I'm so excited for it.
It's an incredible advantage, like I said, these two teams have, even more than like Detroit. Like I'm wowed by Detroit's offense too. But when you have like Josh Allen like rolling left, it just looks weird. A righty quarterback rolling left, and he could slither his way for 7 yards. And then Lamar did that. I think he probably had 5 of the first 8 carries against the Steelers. I'm like, oh, this game's over too. They're done too. So yeah, when they go against each other, I was so nervous about that Buffalo game, Simmons. I'm like, we all need this to complete a parlay. I had Ohio State to start it and then anchored with these other two. And the orange pants were a killer on the eyes for Denver. And then they scored right away. I'm like, shit, this is
we knew Denver was going to make us sweat it out in the first quarter. Yeah. That was just the law. There was just too much money on. And then I was thinking about if you tease them and Buffalo could win by 1, but you still don't cover the tease. There are all these different ways. But then Buffalo was like, we got this. I think combining the two of them, I think they're the two best how do you stop this offenses we've had in a while. And I'm not ready to talk about them historically, and one of them might score 7 points next week. But just when you're watching the moment in these playoff games, now that these quarterbacks don't have to worry about saving their bodies to the playoffs and can actually run and try to do stuff. Daniels was like this too with Washington. I just don't know what the move is when it's 3rd and 4. It's like you almost have to guess what the play is, Tecmo Bowl style. Charge Allen. He's still going to stiff arm the first guy, roll out, and try to hit somebody sidearmed as he's rolling. And then Lamar is just he's covered in grease.
Yep.
Even if you stop him, he's going by you. So I don't.
Yeah,
I can't wait to watch this.
Romo said, he's like, you could have a spy on these guys, but they're just better than all the spies. They're faster. They're, you know, they have a better, keener sense of the field than all the spies. And it's just tough. And you look at the Steelers, whose defense ended up being just average, right? But I was thinking, wow, if they can't stop Lamar, if this can't be like a 17-15 type game that they're used to, forget it. Who the hell's going to do it?
Allen had a play in the first half when he was going around the corner and the guy knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And I think it was a third down, and the guy basically beat him to the spot, and Allen just went around him and went down the sideline and got 8, took a guy on, knocked him over 2 instead of
the defender like put his jersey down over a puddle so that Allen could step over it. It's getting ridiculous.
But it's just both of those guys just have these, oh my God, how do you stop this? Now, Baltimore might not have Zay Flowers next week.
Mm-hmm.
That's not nothing. Buffalo seems like they have their full team, and they really feel like they've I don't know where they got this offensive line from that, you know, we did a lot of prep before the year. I remember liking certain things about their team, and definitely they had an offensive line was one of the strengths. Now it feels like one of the best 3 offensive lines in the league.
Yeah.
So,
and James Cook is very good, and they don't rely on one guy. It's not Stephon Diggs. Like, oh, you don't get him the ball, he's going to be mad, and he's your not. No, you look at the box score, they'll end up having like 8 pass catchers. And
he's had like 15 touchdown catches this year.
Yeah.
I guess the difference is Baltimore is built to stop the run. They're really good at it. I think they're number 1 in the league. Buffalo is not.
Right.
So if you're going to say, all right, both of these teams are going to go bully ball, I think Baltimore has a better chance to do it. Baltimore yesterday, as they broke Pittsburgh's spirit completely and totally, they had that 13-run, 85-yard touchdown drive where they did not pass, which is just a fuck you.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's just, you're just pulling it out at that point and just and waving it around like a fucking lasso. It's like 13 runs in a row. Hey, Tomlin, have some of this. Like, it's such a fuck you. It really is. Like, not one pass. That's just like, you're like, let's break these guys. They're often, hey, he's telling Harbaugh, like, hey, I was thinking about just calling runs over and over again until we score just to fuck with these guys. He's like, yeah, do it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go for it. So
it worked. And Tomlin, I don't know. I mean, that's 6 games, and in the playoffs, he's gone down by 21 or more. Like, I don't know what you think about this guy. And then I look at the quarterback situation. Like, this team doesn't have a chance unless the moon ball to Pickens works. It has to work like 4 times a game now for them to even have any kind of chance.
Well, we were betting on them over and over again, and they were overachieving and looking great.
Yeah.
And the Philly game was when it turned. They got their asses kicked by Philly, and we all said, stayed at the craps table a game too long on that one.
Yeah.
It felt like that 3 games in 11 days kind of broke them. I was thinking about possible excuses for them. The 3 days and 11 days somehow didn't break Baltimore, or KC, or Houston. They all like gained strength of it, but I guess Pittsburgh could blame it. Russell Wilson maybe is like a house guest that just kind of stays too long. It's like fun to have him in the guest room for 2 months.
Yeah.
Month 3, it's just leaving the fridge open, and you're like, oh man, this guy.
Yeah, gotta get off the couch. All right.
Tomlin, 18 years, the 18-year itch. I don't know if is that a thing?
I think it is. Yeah, look it up.
Here's the thing I noticed, though. I have
one more I could add too. That
let's hear it.
Yeah, you called them the best AFC team back like December 2nd or so. That might be another one.
They were the 1 seed.
No, come on.
Was I wrong?
Yeah, you were wrong. Yeah, come on.
Well, in the moment, was I wrong?
Sure, yeah.
My whole point was they're the best team right now. December or whatever.
They weren't better than Buffalo.
I believe.
I mean, all right. Okay. It's fine. I'm not blaming you, but
that's fine. I'm going to wipe my tears with I went 27-5 and over-unders handkerchief.
Oh, wow. You have that?
So I looked at their last 6 playoff losses for Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Gave up 36 points to the Pats, 45 to the Jaguars, 48 to the Browns, 42 to the Chiefs, 31 to Buffalo last week, and then 28 to the Ravens this week, which really could have been more if the Ravens wanted to score more. Tomlin's supposed to be this like awesome defensive coach. We always talk about the ugly 18-16 games, and then January it just goes away. What happens?
I don't know, but I also know they don't have the luxury of what the Patriots did, right? Because they're not ever going to be in a position to draft a great quarterback. right? So if as long as this streak gets to, oh my God, he did it. They went over 8.5 wins again. You win on that. That's great. And then it's a first round exit in the playoffs. That's not going to change anytime soon. But now you're right. The margins are getting thick. Like the season is just too long for them. And they're losing by too many points in the playoffs. I don't know what happens to that guy.
I don't know what happened to their defense. I thought the first 2 months, I thought they had the best defense in the league.
Yeah.
As DJ Watt got hurt at one point, and it never felt like he was totally the same. They had some secondary injuries, but the first 2 months they were like the flying around defense. And who was calling him out? Who was the announcer for that Pittsburgh game? It was not Collinsworth
this week.
Oh, it's Herb Street.
Herb Street, yeah.
Was, he's not exactly like Mr. Super Critical. He was like calling them out in the first half. It's like, it's a playoff game. Where's the fight from this team?
Yeah, make a play, he kept saying. Yeah.
Something weird happened. I don't know what happened with this team, but whatever we saw the last 5 weeks was not what we saw in the first 3 months from them.
Yeah, I don't want to say he's losing the locker room, but this is the closest it looks to that in a long time.
Would you trade Mike McCarthy in a second-round pick for him?
I got to say, I was a little annoyed that the Patriots signed Vrabel. I'm like, oh, man, Tomlin could be available for them. They just waited like 48 hours. And yes,
for the Pats?
Yes, for the Patriots. Yeah.
The Steelers, they famously only had 3 coaches in 130 years or whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they go in for after the season meeting with the owner and they're like, what happened this year, Mike? And he's like, I don't know. We paid $3 million for our quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I won 10 games.
So what's the quarterback situation? Not that I care too much, but what possibly going to
I know what I would do. I would trade the first pick for McCarthy.
But then you still have Russell Wilson or Justin Fields and McCarthy.
No, not. I'm saying JJ McCarthy.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, not Mike McCarthy. No.
I was like, what?
Trade a 9th round pick for
I know it's
McCarthy.
been a tough week, Bill, but what?
No.
This is all right.
No, I would trade for JJ McCarthy.
I gotcha. Interesting.
Now, if Darnold shits the bed again tomorrow, he might not be available anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Darnold could go from 2 weeks ago, we were talking about why won't they just pay him now? And now 2 weeks, if he sucks again, I'd be like, well, at least they have JJ
That's not
McCarthy.
bad. There's not a ton of options for them. That's not a bad thought.
The other guy, they could trade for Joe Milton. I'll send him some Week 18 Buffalo Pats game tape. Joe Milton lighting up the Bills' second string, we could pretend it was the first string. Chargers-Texans.
This was beyond shakies, right? This was haven't gone in a while, but if we did, like, people would be chucking their mojo potatoes at the screen for the first hour, and the manager would threaten to turn the game to reruns on Telemundo.
It was AI shakies. It was the AI created a shakies broadcast.
Yeah.
6-0 Chargers are up after they just gave away possible touchdowns on 2 straight drives. The Texans are an absolute mess. 3rd and 16. They snap the ball over Stroud's head. And it seems like it's either going to be a safety, a touchdown, something great.
Mm-hmm.
This is right after the intentional grounding they don't call. And he picks it up, rolls out. Everyone in Chargers stops, throws it to midfield, and immediately turns it to a different quarterback. And from that point on, the Texans never look back.
My best bet was the Texans over 19.5. And you were making fun of me. Like, how'd you Texans over 3.5 points looking? And I deserved it. They were terrible. I still don't think I picked the right side. They won 32-12, and I still don't think I got it right.
I don't know if there was a right side.
Oh,
I think it was 2 wrong sides.
And Herbert's so weird because he'll throw a 22-yard completion to McConkey. I'm like, wow, that's the best throw of a football I've seen in a long time. Yeah.
What a cannon.
Yeah. 4 interceptions later. I think we were going to rank his top 10 bad passes, but they ended up too many. We can't get to it.
So was that for you? Was that a Houston is so resilient, they're the nobody believes in us game? Or is that a we might never get there with Justin Herbert game?
Oh, man. I think, can I say both? I'm not allowed to say both.
You can say both.
I'm going to say Houston, primarily Houston. And they scared me last year. Remember, that's what sent me on a tailspin and some others when we bet against them. I thought the Browns were a better team last year, right? When they went to Houston and Houston throttled them. I was like, you know what? The Chargers tend to have, now you got this quarterback, going back to Herbert. He's had, what has he had? Like 2 teams that had 3 interceptions and he couldn't, the 3 turnovers and he couldn't beat them.
That's
like
the thing. Everything was going their way and he still couldn't close the game. 5 years, 0 playoff wins. He's 3 games over 500. If you include the playoff games, he's 1 game over 500. I was actually researching quarterbacks who never won a playoff game, and the best one ever is Y.A. Tittle.
He never won one, huh?
Never won one.
As much as we heard about him.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Had some, was in some big spots, apparently never won one. And then Andy Dalton was the other one.
Andy Dalton never won a Shakey's game?
Never won. Oh for 5. But the famous one was Stafford. First 12 years, 0-3 in the playoffs, never won anything. So maybe this is a Stafford type thing, but it's really unusual for a guy this talented to not win. So you have that. And then you have, we used to joke about the Delhomme.
Mm-hmm.
The Delhomme was 4 picks with the fumble. And then the full Delhomme, I think, was 5 picks with a fumble, and one of them had to be a pick 6 or something like that.
So close.
So I went back and I looked. Quarterbacks in the last 50 years with 4 picks and a fumble in a playoff game, and it's only 15. And
15. That's a
15,
lot.
15. But think like people used to throw interceptions way more in the old days.
Passed as much, I guess.
Todd Marinovich had one. Jim Kelly, Richard Todd, Joe Ferguson, Tommy Kramer. The one we watched together, the first Super Bowl we watched together, Tampa, Oakland.
Oh, yeah.
Rich Gannon, 5 picks, 3 pick 6s. So that was I guess the full Gannon is 5
full Gannon
picks.
Sounds better anyway, I think. Yeah.
So only 3 guys have thrown 5 picks with an interception: Delhomme, Gannon, and Kramer. The last 2 to do it were Brian Hoyer in 2016 and Carson Palmer the same year.
Right, I do
remember
did, that.
The 4 with the he had the pick 6.
I'll say this about Herbert because I don't want to bury him completely yet. But I don't know that Harbaugh's as psyched as he was a year ago, right? I don't know. We could stop the comparisons to Joe Burrow for sure. Fine, keep comparing them to Tua. That's good. But I don't know if you're Harbaugh, what's your thought process now? It's like, oh shit, this is going to take a lot more work than I thought, right?
I think you move pretty quickly into I got to get this guy more than one receiver. There's a nerd case for blaming the offensive coordinator and the play calling, but the football nerds love Justin Herbert no matter what he does.
Right.
Here's the bigger question to me: quarterbacks you'd rather have for the next 8 years than Justin Herbert. So take it 2033.
It's really
I'll list them to you, and you tell me when to stop.
Yeah.
Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow. Take all 4 of those, right?
Yeah.
Would you take Jaden Daniels?
Sure, right now, but I'm going to be hesitant with the whole CJ Stroud thing. But yes, right now.
CJ Stroud?
I don't know.
So toss up for you.
That's close. That's maybe where you got me. Wait a minute. There's not more. There
is more.
The top. Oh,
Drake May.
No, come on. Let's see a little something else.
If the Chargers offer Justin Herbert for Drake May straight up, fuck yeah. What are you talking about? I'd rather have Drake May in a rookie contract 100 times out of 100.
You've not a good. Whoever said you were a good businessman.
Here's the interesting one. Mayfield.
Oh.
Would you rather have Mayfield or Justin Herbert? He's been in the league since what, 2017?
8's a lot of years. If you told me 4 or 5, I think it's easier.
So you go 4 years, you'd say yes.
I think so, yeah. I love Baker.
Dak, you wouldn't say 8 years, but if if I said 4, you would take Dak for 4.
I think I would, yes.
Darnold?
It's so funny.
Oh, you paused.
We all have to wait till tomorrow to see.
Yeah.
I don't want to look foolish. Yeah, I'd say no, probably. But,
would you rather have Jared Goff or Justin Herbert?
I'd
rather have Herbert.
Herbert, yeah.
Would you rather have Caleb Williams or Justin Herbert?
Herbert right now. Why would I? Yeah.
Okay. So that's it.
The
point of that exercise is, as bad as he was in that game, and he's never won a playoff game, he's still one of the top 10 QB assets, no matter what your preference is. You're still talking yourself into.
Yeah, because it'll get you 10 wins, and maybe you can get lucky in the playoffs. And they were not lucky or good yesterday.
I don't love the adversity piece with him. Like when it feels like when the wheels start coming off, it doesn't get better for him.
Right.
It feels when it's going good, he seems great. And then
that's a whole other list.
Goes the other way.
Some of those no's, I would rather take some of those guys down 10 than Herbert for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to do Guess the Lines round 2. We only have 3 games that have lines. We're going to come back Monday night after Minnesota and the Rams and do a little short, maybe 25-minute pod where we talk about the game and then guess the line because we like to guess every line. It's not our fault they changed, made it a 3-day round 1.
I love doing the pod with you, but yeah, it was a little tidier when everything was done by Sunday night. And also, make that game in Vegas. Move everything to Vegas. When in doubt, move everything to Vegas. What's Glendale?
Which game? Oh,
the Rams-Vikings.
Yeah, why isn't that in Vegas?
It's an easier drive to Vegas if you're in LA. It's a football game, if it's a bachelor party, if it's an intervention, just move it to Vegas. It's an easy thought.
They love Glendale. They love how middle of the road between the two teams it is for some reason. It's like, we put it in Arizona. It's perfectly neutral. The NFL just feels like it's the most neutral territory possible. I don't know.
It's just field. Yeah.
It's not the first time they've went to Glendale. I'm with you. Why not go to Vegas?
Go to Vegas. Yeah.
Okay. I'll do the AFC games first.
All right.
Chiefs-Texans in Kansas City. The only reason I was scared of Houston in that I really like the Chargers in that Chargers game.
Mm-hmm.
Houston had a whiff and nobody believes in us.
Yeah.
And then you look at them more and you're like, there's a reason nobody believes in you. You guys have sucked. The only things that would make anyone believe in you are the models on home underdogs during the playoffs and some of the stuff House did on the show. Like there's gambling nerd metrics that we should believe in you. But from what we've watched from a football standpoint, you guys have sucked.
Yeah.
So I don't feel bad about missing that as a nobody believes in us. But in this game, it's going to kick up.
There's always like a 2.5 line that they screw you with, right? Like, I just have to pick the winner here. The Chargers are better than the Texans. So that was the one.
You know, the thing with that game, though, I really thought the Chargers offensive line was going to be able to handle the edge rushers on Houston. They have good tackles. Yeah. And yet, over and over again, Houston was coming on the edge, and they completely disrupted them. Yeah,
right.
I just pegged it wrong. Anyway, Chiefs-Texans. I have Chiefs by 9.
All right, don't get mad, but I hit this exactly 7.5.
Wow,
that's what I said.
So I jacked it up because I thought they would not want us to tease the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought they'd put it at 9 so that even if you teased them, you still had Chiefs -3. Chiefs 7.5, they're basically opening the floodgates for a tease.
They've done a weird, disrespectful thing for the Chiefs and their lines, as much as they can for a 15-win team. And they've kind of done it all season long. The big thing I'm hearing is it seems like it's a disadvantage. And FanDuel is also treating it as a disadvantage that they've been off for 2 weeks. Like, the Chiefs are off 2 weeks and they didn't play anyone week 18. So that's really 2 weeks. Like, they do this every year and they win the Super Bowl like every other year. So why?
Yeah, they have all infrastructure.
Why are we going crazy about it?
I can understand it after week 12, week 13 range when we were really worried about the Chiefs and it really felt like, what were they, 12-1? It felt like they could have been easily 8-5 or 7-6 with 5 different plays. I like the way they ended the season up until when they didn't have to play anymore. I thought they were more explosive. I thought Pacheco was, once he came back, they run the ball better. I just liked how they looked more.
And I think they're delighted in this matchup, honestly. I don't think they they wouldn't have been afraid of Harbaugh, but the Chargers played them well twice. I think they had a 2-point loss and a 7-point loss, and Harbaugh going to Kansas. I think Andy Reid gets a little freaked out there, but they'll slap this team around, I think.
The only case would be the Houston pass rush again. KC's tackles aren't great. Some sort of dumb KC first half where they have 3 points, 20 minutes into the game. And then Mixon pounding the ball down their throat. I don't know.
Listen,
I'm teasing the Chiefs. I'm just telling you.
You and I know it's been a rough week. You and I and your financial planner, we're going to sit down Tuesday, Wednesday-ish, and we're going to figure out how much you want to put on the Chiefs, Ohio State money line parlay. And so you're...
you're still in on Ohio State.
Yeah, that's easy. So let's just do it and not have to worry about anything.
You're not afraid of Notre Dame?
No. It's mismatch. It's a mismatch up front. They're going to get bullied. Anyway.
Bills-Ravens is our second game. I had this all week, battling back and forth between -2.5 and -3. And I think I'm wrong. But I have the Bills in Buffalo, favored by 3 against the Baltimore Ravens.
It's exactly what I thought. And I stand by it. Our friends at FanDuel have the Bills only favored by 1.5.
Ooh, the tic-tac zone.
Yep.
Did we see a little flipperoo?
Oh, you think the Ravens will get the nod?
I'm just, every time we're in the 1.5 tic-tac zone, sometimes by Wednesday, all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, Baltimore's favored in Buffalo now.
Can we talk about what this means? Like how they may have arrived at this? Because it doesn't really make sense to me.
Maybe they arrived the same way I've kind of arrived mentally. I like the Ravens.
You do?
I do. I forgot to do this before. I had this Derrick Henry thing I was going to do with you.
Go ahead. Let's do it. Which quarterback would you want over Derrick Henry? Oh, no.
I was trying to think of how many guys were awesome from like the first moment they played in high school all the way through.
Huh.
And they're still awesome now. Like, I think LeBron's been like that, right? LeBron was awesome as a 9th grader all the way through. He's been awesome for 26 years. Henry, as a freshman in high school at Yulee in 2009, rushed for 2,465 yards and 7.9 yards a carry. He was like 14 years old.
Yeah.
He finished his career. He ran for 12,124 yards in high school, 8.7 yards per carry, and 153 touchdowns. Right? So I don't know if he's the greatest high school running back ever, but whenever anybody writes that article, he has to be one of the first people mentioned. It's like Emmitt Smith, and you go through. Yeah. You have to have Henry in the first couple.
Well, week 9 against Norwich his junior year, he says right. He had the flu, but he only went for like 130. Yeah.
So then he goes to Alabama. They're stacked at running back. He plays anyway. Second year better, and then third year, 2,219 yards, 5.6 a carry. Turns pro, and he's rushed for 11,423 yards in 9 years. He's had 3 years where he ran for over 5 yards a carry, and then another year he was 4.9. This last year he ran for 5.9 a carry in 1921. It's the second best year of his career. There's nobody like him. He's a complete 101. We've never seen a running back who does the things that he does. I can't compare him to anybody we've ever, like, there's pieces of like Christian Okoye, Eric Dickerson. I don't know who he is.
Yep.
And he's exactly as good as he was when he came in the league. And I don't know how long it continues, but it's weird that we had that one playoffs when we talked about him when the Titans were like 9-8 or 9-7. And then they made it all the way to the AFC title game. And it was like, oh my God, is Derrick Henry more valuable than any quarterback? And that was the only time he had a moment in the sun.
Yeah.
And now you watch him, especially in that playoff game. And it's like, are we just completely underrating Baltimore? And is this Lamar Henry thing? Are we going to look back at this and think this was one of the most amazing combos we've had in the league this century? Anyway, That's why I like the Ravens.
Well, I think you could be right about all that stuff. I mean, it's amazing. A guy does so well in high school that he's drafted in college, and he does so well in college. The pros wow.
How are you this great as a running back for 15 straight years?
But his yards per carry went down a couple of those years.
But he's unstoppable.
I get it. He's
awesome.
Still
unstoppable. He was unstoppable as a freshman in high school. 15 years later, nobody can stop him. Like,
it's amazing. Listen,
Herschel Walker slowed down.
FanDuel had Saturday highest rushing yards on Saturday. I was like, it's Derrick Henry. Why is it minus 125? JJ's arguing with me. I was like, just stop. Just bet Derrick Henry to have the most yards on Saturday. He's going to have the most yards for the weekend. And
would he end up with 186?
186 or something. So, yeah, he's great. They're great. The only thing is, I don't know, like they have to, sometimes they don't figure out how to manage the load between Lamar and Henry. Sometimes.
He's 4.9 per carry for his career.
Yeah.
and then 5-0 in the postseason. Usually, we always talk about running backs. It's like a shelf life of 4 years, 5 years, maybe 6 years. This guy's going to, he's floating around in free agency and people are like, he might be too old. And it turned out he was just on a team that didn't have quarterbacks for 4 years.
Right.
I think this guy's one of the all-time freaks. Like, I think Moss was a freak. I think Lawrence Taylor was a freak. We talk about like the freak athletes that we've watched since we've been alive and love football. And Henry, it's a short list, but he's definitely on it. He's a 101 to me.
I'm not going to argue. I will have to see his like stats in Turkey Bowl when his parents played and when he was like 9 years old and stuff, but I'll trust
Senior year, 13 games, 4,261 yards.
Wow.
He ran for 4,000 yards.
I know. It's stupid. It's really dumb. Yeah, he's got a lot of wear and tear on him. It doesn't make any sense.
Or he doesn't. Or he has no wear and tear because he's a freak.
Maybe it keeps going.
But it does, like you see, there's like the videos of Lamar from high school where he has like a couple just freaky, he has that run into the end zone where he just stops and the guy goes by him and he just pauses and then he goes in. And it's just like some of these dudes, they just had it when they were 14. Then there's the late bloomer types. Even Cooper DeJean. Have you seen the basketball footage of him? Like doing two-hand slams? I don't know.
These guys are good athletes.
These guys are good athletes.
I'm glad you're learning that. I still think 1.5's light. Sorry.
No, I think Henry is one of the all-time freaks since we've been watching football. I would put him at the top freak level of all these dudes. And I wonder, is he the key guy in round 2? Not the reason I brought that up. Is he the key guy in round 2, not Lamar? Because the Bills, they're medium sized. They're not big. I do feel like you can battering ram them and he just softens them up and then Lamar can do his stuff on the sides.
Why did you make this line 3 if you like Baltimore so much?
I was just trying to guess what Vegas would have it because I think Vegas really likes the Bills.
Yeah. I don't know.
Where does the line end up, you think?
You're going Ravens. As soon as we hang this Zoom up, you're putting the Ravens on a teaser with somebody. I know you are.
To me, I want to bet them straight up because there's still the Lamar playoff stuff still makes me a whiff nervous. So I wouldn't want to tie it with another bet. I'd rather tease the Chiefs with one of the NFC teams.
Mac Hollins had 13 touchdown receptions in high school played varsity in 9th grade.
4,241 yards.
It's preposterous. I know. It's crazy.
I just and I guess he got hurt for like 8 games one year in Tennessee, but there's just no wear and tear at all. It's like he's like a car that has 200,000 miles on it that can still go 200 miles an hour.
If he went to our son's high school, we'd be talking about him so much our kids would hate us, right? Like, shut up, Dad. Pay attention to me. It's like, yeah, but you got a running back in your school who ran for 4,300 yards.
I was on a text thread about this weekend. I was saying it's like the kid in the Little League World Series game, the Cody Webster kid, who's just bigger than everybody else.
Right.
And then that kid grows up and that's the highlight of his life, right? Derrick Henry was probably that kid at age 8. Yeah. And he's still that guy now and he's 30. He's been that guy for over 2 decades. He still looks like you watch and you go, how's anyone tackling this? All right, third game, Detroit, home for Washington.
Yep.
You know where this is going. It's going right in the Vegas zone for me. Detroit by 5.5.
Ooh. Wow. I said 7.5 and it's 8.5.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow, you're going to beat me this week.
Wait a minute. Do we even have to guess the lines tomorrow? Yeah, we do.
We still have to do for posterity.
Yeah.
You don't have to start your guys. You can be like when the Chiefs rest in week 18.
Yeah.
You can look up some Derrick Henry high school footage. We can go over that somewhere. Some of his games in Yulee.
We'll talk about our Sacramento bet. This is 8.5. This is I was trying to figure out why it's even higher than 7.5, what I guess, but so Tampa was what? 3? And Detroit's 8.5.
I think that's ridiculous. I don't understand that at all. With Detroit's defense? Because they look good against Minnesota because Darnold sucked and sailed like 10 passes. Now we think Detroit's defense is back. They gave up 40 plus points like 3 weeks before that.
The over-under is by far the highest so far, and at 55.5. So I guess they're thinking it could get out of hand with one score, even if it's close late.
Well, this lined up really nicely for the Lions.
Yeah.
They get the 1 seed. They get a week off. They get Washington in round 2 that just pulled out yet another crazy win, but still has a rookie quarterback. Like the leap of just thinking mentally of Washington. I know they won 12 games. They're a good team, but just thinking about them in the NFC title game, that seems like a lot.
Give me, if you're Dan Campbell, and let's say you get through this game, out of the 3 possible opponents, Rams, Vikings, Eagles, who do you want?
I think I'd be the most afraid of the Vikings, as crazy as that sounds.
Really?
And they might lose tomorrow.
Familiarity, yeah.
Don't you think? Because I do think there's a world where those were the 2 best teams, not just in the NFC, but the whole league potentially. Withstanding the whole Chiefs playoff pedigree and all that stuff. But
what if A.J. Brown puts down the book and
maybe he'll finish inner excellence by then?
He's got a long time. He's got 2 weeks.
With the way Hurts looks, I wouldn't be as scared of the Eagles as I would have been 4 weeks ago.
Right.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, he had 39 yards at halftime.
I know. I just read you his numbers and that he's winning these playoff games. It's ridiculous, but it does bug me that 3rd and 3, they got you over a barrel every single time.
All right, so we're going to we'll save the rest of it for tomorrow when we react off.
All right,
we'll get that up. You're right.
I'm up 3-1. I won the week. I'm up 3-1. We'll do it for fun.
What's the? Are we tied now for the season?
We were tied heading into the week. Yeah, so I'm up by 1. This is great.
Jesus, could be your first title. This could give hope to Buffalo fans, Minnesota fans, Washington Commanders fans.
Hold on,
Lions fans.
Let me read you my Guess the Lines record in middle school. I went 16 weeks in 9th
grade. How many great high school to their 30s athletes can you think of who were great the entire time all the way through? Because I guess like in basketball, it's
basketball
like
happens more.
Basketball happens way more easy to figure out. Football, it happens with the quarterbacks, but the running backs and the receivers, I would argue it doesn't really. Emmett was like that. Emmett was awesome.
Emmett was great.
Right? He was awesome. He was a high school, college pro guy.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know. Cerruti, are there other guys that I'm not thinking of? How many guys were awesome high school, college pros?
I mean, Peyton.
Yeah.
Oh, Peyton's a good one. Was Peyton's awesome great. Like 9th grade on?
He couldn't get over the hump, though, in college, right? Wasn't that kind of the knock on him?
He was still putting up stats.
Yeah, no, he was great. He just couldn't beat Florida. Yeah.
I guess Randy Moss, but then Randy Moss had to transfer when he was in college, and the college went a little sideways for a second.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Adrian Peterson, right? But
that's a good one.
Obviously, you slowed down in the last couple of years, but yeah, a ridiculous recruiting class.
So, Rudy, when Henry fell to the 2nd round after the Alabama season, did that seem like the right range for you, or did you think everybody was a big mistake?
No, you remember people called that like a terrible pick because he's like big. Was he fast enough? There were people that really did.
They thought he was too slow.
I don't know. Yeah, which is weird because I think he did. I don't think his 40 time was terrible, but yeah, like there were people that crushed that pick as a 2nd round pick, and I don't know. Like, it's always weird though with the Alabama running backs because sometimes they play with the best offensive line and yada yada yada, and
that was the knock. Yeah, right. Yeah, the whole thing. Vince Young.
I'm sure the listeners will come up with a couple of them.
I know they're going to kill us for missing an obvious one.
Well, I was looking at one of those lists where they had the 50 best. Tony Dorsett was apparently one of the great high school running backs of all time. And then he was really good at Pittsburgh, too.
In Pennsylvania.
So he might be another one. How long was his Cowboys run was probably 8 or 9 years. So
pretty great. Yeah, right in there.
All right. Thanks. Cerruti, who do you like in the title game while you're here?
Oh, Ohio State.
Oh, wow. What's the line in the Ohio State?
It's like, is it 6 now? What is it?
Oh, so
I'm sorry, 8.5. No, it's 8.5. Yeah.
So tease them with the Chiefs.
You could tease it. Money. Like I said, we're going to sit down with your financial planner.
Okay. All right.
Can't be taken.
Thanks, Cerruti. All right. Should we skip Parent Corner this week and talk California?
We could, yes.
We should mention that as we're recording this on a Sunday night, and we got notice a couple hours ago that there's like a severe wind thing coming on Tuesday. So it's hard to say where we're going next, but this was already the worst week since I've been in LA. By far, not even close. One of the biggest natural disasters in American history. And I can't wrap my head around it all of these days later. And you're over in the Manhattan Beach area. I don't know how much you dealt with some of the areas that were affected when we're talking Palisades and Malibu and Eaton, Altadena were the big four. We knew a lot of people from friends of friends, people my kids went to school with who lived in different parts. And I don't even know how to describe this to people who don't live in California. Like the wide swath of devastation, the Palisades just basically being gone, whole parts of Malibu just being gone, Eaton, Altadena. Like it's one of those things when you see it, when you watch it on TV and it's happening in other areas and it's like, man, that seems awful, but you don't really fully understand it until you live there. Yeah. And I know LA will come back. I know everybody bounces back eventually, but man, it's really hard to even understand how the rebuilding is going to happen and how long it's going to take. And you just see those wide overhead shots of these different areas, and it's just like it's just so awful. And it's just been an awful week, and it just feels like it's not going to get better.
Yeah, and that's also part of it. And I'm sorry, I know this goes on in like Maui and other places, and we should be thinking about that. But yeah, when it's in your backyard and like people are checking in with me, I'm like, I don't know. I'm good for now. I'm all right for now. I have no idea. Yeah. And it depends on the wind. And somehow, did you know they could predict wind for 3 days? I didn't even know they could do that. But so we know like there's bad shit ahead. And we know a lot of people who got devastated, and it's really rough. It really, I don't want to bum everyone out, but it really is like, oh my God, you feel like you have so much control over your life, and then you don't. You really don't with like something stupid like this, and we don't know how it started, and we don't know how it's going to end, and that's and we need football as a distraction, and it's hardly ranks as important, but I mean, for God's sakes, I wish we could like talk about this as if it's going on in the past, but it's not.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it's over yet. We'll see. I mean, I've been here since 2002, and you've been here a few years before that. And there's been wind events, and it's been windy. And I remember over and over again, especially like even taking my daughter to soccer tournaments, and it would be like 35 mile an hour winds in Lancaster and stuff like that.
Right.
For some reason, these winds seemed a little, they were pointing them out a couple of days before, like, hey, this is pretty scary this time around. And then everything that happened was so much worse than you ever could imagine. Even heading through Tuesday, like it was starting the Palisades, and then all of a sudden by early Tuesday night here, you really felt like this could go in a direction you just never could have in your worst nightmare imagined. But first responders, fire department, police department, the helicopter pilots dropping the water, all the TV people who were out there braving the elements. I mean, that one of the things that was really inspiring was how many people were trying to get out there, trying to tell us what was going on. And for a lot of people watching TV, not knowing if it was their neighborhood, their house, and it was, you're just relying on all these people, these Twitter accounts, like that LA Scanner account. And it turned out to be just a 10 out of 10, the worst case scenario that we could have had.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, even the reporters and these firestorms like that are going on, like, 100 feet behind them. It's like, what is going on? And like I said, I wish that the worst is behind us. But then, we have a mutual friend that's a doctor at UCLA, and he's like, yeah, man, they have to evacuate this hospital if the fires come within 2.5 miles of this place. And it's right now, it's 4. I was like, are you kidding me? What the hell? What does that look like? Evacuating a whole giant hospital. Like that's my God, that's going to be something that's just even more outrageous and right up there with anything else. So, just, plenty of GoFundMe's out there, plenty of places to look to help, plenty of fucking scammers too that are assholes trying to take advantage of this, but just be careful and be diligent and,
Yeah, I wanted to really kind of dive into it and see which ones I trusted, and maybe on the next podcast could talk about some of the possibilities. Some of the stuff's going to get rebuilt, and I'm sure it's going to take a while. There's some other stuff that I don't know how stuff comes back. Houses that were, from 1940, 1950 that you would never build the same way. And some pieces of California that just had real special character. Certainly one of the reasons I wanted to live here, being near the ocean and just some of the coolest parts of the country I'd ever seen. And then on top of it, just I think losing your house and having no power over that, and just knowing all the stuff that you kept and everything's gone. Like there's very few worse feelings than that. So it's just so much pain and so much heartbreak out here. We try to do podcasts, try to talk football, and try to keep people's minds off it for an hour, but it's really, really horrible. And I really hope we've hit the end of it and that it's not going to get worse.
That'd be nice, right? That'd be nice. After
not
all
too
this
much to ask.
Parlay and teaser talk, let's get everyone safe.
Well, that's it. Best of luck to everybody out there. We're really sorry about everything that happened. On one of the later podcasts that we do, hopefully this week, we'll try to have some, maybe even tomorrow when we come back tomorrow for that last game, maybe we could try to figure out a couple good things that we actually trust and a couple ways to get the word out to try to help people.
I like that. I mean, it's crazy. Your week started with one of the Bella twins twerking 4 feet from you. I mean, I think...
I know, that was a Monday night. It feels like it was 100
That was
100 days ago.
$65,000 to make Parent Corner. And too many terrible things happened since. So anyway.
Well, we're really feeling for everybody out there. And it's just really heartbreaking. I really come to love LA too. And, it's just hard to wrap your head around, especially places that you've been to a million times. And now you think, well, wait a second, what's that going to look like now? But hopefully we can all get through this and figure it out.